Here, keep it simple.
So I'll keep it simple, around £200 million to spend, no more than 250 million, 6 players, who do I sign for Manchester United this summer? Pause the video now, go to the comments and put your 5 or 6 players that you would want to sign, and then watch the video, and at the end you can come and tell me if I managed to change any of your suggestions.
I'll see you in the comments section.
So for this challenge, because I'm only signing 6 players, I'm going to have to keep Greenwood, Sancho and Rashford, as I think United need to focus the majority of the budget and signings on centre-backs and at least one central midfielder. So first of all, as an alternative centre-forward option, I'd bring in Sergio Guirassy, not just because he has a £17.5 million release clause, but also just because I think he's a fantastic alternative to Højlund. His goal scoring this season at Stuttgart has gone to another level, with 25 goals in 24 Bundesliga games, having a non-penalty goals rate which sits in the top 1% when compared against all other forwards in Europe's top 5 leagues over the past 365 days. Now it should be said that his massive non-penalty XG over performance of 0.25 per 90 isn't sustainable and definitely not in the Premier League. But his movement inside of the box and composure when he gets a chance is so good that I still think he's capable of hitting 15 Premier League goals next season, with the fact that he ranks in the 97th percentile for his non-penalty XG, showcasing his ability to create and get into goal scoring positions. But his link-up play outside of the box is also very good as well, probably better than Højlund's at this stage of his young career, and I think this is what United need, not just someone who can pick up those poacher-like goals inside of the box, but also someone who is effective at dropping off and linking play efficiently with their back to goal, and I think Guirassy does both of these to an incredibly high standard. You could go out and get Xerxes or Tony, but I just think Guirassy would be better value for money, freeing up funds for starting positions. But before I get into that, if you like me prefer the retro jersey to the new season ones, go over to Jersey FIFA. You can check out all their Manchester United retro jerseys through the 1990s and 2000s, as well as from other club and international sites as well. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. Ross Barkley, as I said in a previous video, which will be linked below, would be another player I'd bring in. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think his contract at Luton expires at the end of the season, meaning that he would be available on a free. Now the casual fan will turn up their nose at me suggesting Barkley, which is just hilarious that some fans just judge players without even watching them play.
What do you mean?
Barkley has been fantastic for Luton this season. His ability to receive the ball under pressure, remain composed and then seamlessly drive powerfully past players in the centre of the pitch is extremely underrated, and this can be seen by the fact that he ranks in the low to mid 90th percentiles for his successful take-ons and the percentage of those take-ons he completes. But it's not just his ball carrying and dribbling, Barkley's passing is also incredibly impressive as well, with him ranking in the 95th percentile for the amount of switches he completes, the 89th percentile for the amount of long passes he completes, and around the 70th percentile for his passes into the final third, and his XG assisted. All in all, you can't deny that statistically Barkley looks very impressive, and he's doing this in the Premier League at a relegation-threatened Luton Town. If this was a 22-year-old with a Spanish passport and a price tag of £60 million, United fans would be absolutely screaming for the signing, but because it's Ross Barkley and a lot of the fan base seems to just look down upon players who aren't the next up-and-coming big thing, players like Barkley get overlooked. Yes, obviously he isn't a long-term signing, but Ross Barkley absolutely walks into United's central midfield at the moment, having the sort of ball carrying through the centre of the pitch and technical quality that United desperately need, and it's a risk-free signing really. If he can't replicate his form for Luton, he is still an excellent squad player to have, and he won't be on big wages either. I think signing Ross Barkley on a free would be a much better signing than when United signed Eriksen on a free, just because Barkley has a sort of physicality and the athleticism that Eriksen lacks. And just because a player is 30 doesn't mean they can't improve, and I think Barkley has shown that he's improved massively over this season from where he was at Chelsea a few seasons ago. He always had the potential, but now he's been able to show it in the Premier League consistently. And I think that's two very good alternative options that we brought in at striker and central midfield, and even though Guirassy is 28 and Barkley 30, given that they cost a combined £17.5 million, I really like both deals, and both could have another 3 or 4 years left in them for sure, particularly Guirassy. But now we've got one more so-called supplementary squad signing before we move on to my 3 marquee signings. But before I come on to that, if you do want some exclusive content, you can check out my Patreon podcast. I've got one recent episode on how Ineos can build a club network with United, as well as analysing the contributing factors behind Erik ten Hag's downfall at United. You can get a 7-day free trial, I'll leave it linked in the description. Benjamin Hendricks from RB Leipzig is a player I've been a massive fan of for some time now, going back to his early days at Bayer Leverkusen. He's a very versatile right back who can comfortably slot in at left back or even in central midfield, being very good technically, and so definitely suiting an inverted fullback role. I think Dalot is overall a better defender, but Hendricks isn't a liability, and as a squad option I think he's perfect. He has just turned 27, but he's only got 1 year left on his contract at RB Leipzig, and so realistically he should be available for between 15 and 20 million pounds and would probably hold his value over the next 1 or 2 seasons as well. And I think given that you're getting a player that can function in a system like De Zerbi's, Motta's or even Graham Potter's, I think he's excellent value for money. I don't think United should be spending 50 to 60 million pounds plus on players in their late 20s, early 30s, but you can't just have a squad full of young players, as we've seen with Chelsea, because you have a lot of potential, but players who need maybe 2 or 3 seasons to reach it. You need players for the here and now, who are reliable, versatile, and technically excellent, and I think Hendricks ticks all of those boxes. So we've spent around £35 million and brought in 3 very good squad players, but now I'm coming on to my big 3 signings of the summer, and all 3 are in their early to mid 20s. Now Amadou Onana is the first and probably the one you expected me to say, given that I've already made a few videos on him, so I'll leave all those linked below in case you want a more in-depth analysis. But in short, from a defensive point of view, Onana's benefit would be clear. He's one of the most athletic and physical ball-winning midfielders around, and just switching him in for Casemiro would massively improve United. However, with Ten Hag's incoherent pressing shape, I still think United would struggle in the centre of the park. But with a press that is a lot narrower and more coordinated, a midfield double pivot of Mainu and Onana is exactly what you want. Both players can cover a lot of ground, and in the transition when United lose the ball, Onana is as good as anyone at racing back and using his long legs to put in a challenge to stop the attack. In possession, I also think he's massively underrated. People just look at a player and then decide what their strengths and weaknesses are without actually watching them play. Even in an Everton system which is very direct, Onana has shown he's got the passing range to sit deep in midfield, being very good at switching play, particularly out to the right side with a clipped pass. But also in general, technically, whilst he isn't as good as Mainu, Onana is still very good in tight spaces, and I think he would improve his short quick bounce passes even further under a manager like De Zerbi, which would take him to another level. He's also got the powerful ball carrying ability that United lack as well, with him being able to eat up ground with the ball at his feet when the space is there in the midfield. I think a midfield diamond of Mainu and either Mount or Barkley, either side of Onana with Bruno Fernandes at the point, is perfectly balanced, with Barkley and Mainu providing the press resistance and ball carrying ability, whilst Onana has the physicality and athleticism to sit in the rest defence and look to stop attacks before they progress into the United half, giving Bruno Fernandes the perfect midfield structure behind to retain a higher position and sit between the lines. But there's also another reason why I really like the signing of Onana, and it links to my final 2 marquee signings, both of whom are centre backs. Onana would cost around £60 million, and so would both of my centre-back signings, maybe slightly more, up to around £65 to £70 million. Ousmane Diomande would be the first, and Alessandro Bastoni at Inter Milan would be the second, and if it wasn't him it would be Jared Braithwaite, who'd cost around the same as well. Now the casuals are going to say that Inter Milan aren't going to sell Bastoni, which just shows that people don't keep up with Italian football, because financially Inter Milan pretty much have to sell players this summer, even with their Serie A success. Now whether Bastoni wants to leave this summer is a harder stumbling block, but if United can convince him and get him for between £65 to £70 million, I think he's the exact type of left-sided centre-back that United need, as is Diomande on the right. Diomande specialises in those low, incisive line-breaking passes in between the lines, being one of the best centre-backs I've seen at playing these types of passes, a massive asset to have when trying to break down deep, compact defensive blocks. Bastoni on the other hand is much more of a ball carrier than a progressive passer, someone who can start off deep in the 3-2 shape, but as he does routinely in Inzaghi's 5-3-2 system, he can be given the freedom to drive up with the ball at his feet, or push up without the ball down the left side, playing almost like an attacking left back even when at centre back. And both of these players are the type of centre backs who are dominant physically, whilst also having the athleticism to play in a very high back line, more than capable of defending in 1v1 situations in the channels. And I am going to do a separate video tactically analysing why having these sorts of centre backs is absolutely imperative for United going forward, so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. Now I don't think Jared Braithwaite is as good as Bastoni in possession, not having the same ball carrying or forward running ability, but he's an absolute fantastic defender, and his incredible dribble pass percentage rate in the Premier League this season shows that. Bastoni and Diomande can also play as a left back and right back respectively as well, which could be an option. Certainly on the left side with either Martinez or Shaw and Bastoni alternating positions, not just game to game but throughout a game as well, giving United incredible positional versatility at the back. And the reason why I love the signings of Onana, Bastoni and Diomande, even though it would take up most of my budget, is because it completely changes United's physical profile as a team, now having two centre-backs and a ball-winning midfielder in front who are physically and athletically dominant players, and they have the height as well, which will massively improve United when defending aerial situations from crosses and set pieces, but also now giving them two players specifically in Bastoni and Onana who have shown they can be aerial threats in the opposition's box as well. So let me know what you think of these signings, particularly my three marquee signings, and whether you'd spread the money out more or do what I've done and focus on younger, physical and athletic players with huge potential.